Hi everybody, it's Sarah Cray with Let's Make Art, and we like to watercolor. We like to water with color. We're watercolorists, and we do a new project every week. We break it down simple, so if you're coming back to watercolor, or if you ever want to try it, or you've never even thought about doing it, we break it down so you can follow along and you will have a great painting at the end. So this is what we're doing today. This gorgeous rainbow elephant. We got great.
Oh boy.
Yes, beautiful, beautiful. We got some great colors going on, very bright, and let's introduce our colors. We're just using 4 today, and we're going to start with our Norway blue. We have some black here. We have daffodil yellow. Should I like, here, cherry red, gorgeous. I'm going to put some on my palette here. I like to usually just take like a squirt and just have a little bit on the sides here, and it gives me all of that middle room for mixing. Because I'm a mixer, I like to play with color.
I'm cool like
I'm cool like that, I'm interesting. I'm edgy, as you might say.
Tell your friends.
Okay, I'm using 2 brushes today, my round 6 and my round 2. These are my most used brushes, I love them. And for the bigger areas, I tend to stay with my round 6 because it's larger, it has a larger belly, so I can fill more of the area faster. And then for like detail work or line work or wherever you're just getting little details, I use my 2. So I'm going to start off with my 6, and then the 5 steps that we have today for our rainbow elephant.
Oh, no.
5 today, you guys, 5, you can do it. 1. We're gonna do a blue wash on our elephant. 2, we're gonna put in the shadows on our elephant. 3, we're gonna do our rainbow water here. 4, we're going to rainbowify. Is that the name we decided?
That's a real word.
It's a real word, look it up.
You gotta rainbowify yourself.
Rainbowify the elephant. We're gonna put some colors in the elephant so he's not just blue. He's got some different colors going on. And then our very last step is just doing detail work, like, you know, making sure the pupil is filled in on the eye and all that kind of stuff. So I have my outline here on my paper, and we provide outlines on our website or in our kits, so you can get that. Now, just so you know, I made mine a little bit darker so you guys can see when I fill it in as I go. But if you are doing this at home, just try and make your tracing as light as possible, because these pencil line marks will show through on your painting, because watercolor is transparent, if you didn't know.
Oh my gosh.
You can see through it. Okay, let's get started. So I'm just taking my round 6 brush. I'm gonna move my Norway. Oh, I do have to make a little note here. You're gonna be looking at my hands. They're dirty. But that is because I was bottling up paint for the subscriptions. So be nice to me. I was like getting ready to go, and I'm like, oh, there's black all over my hands. So please know that I'm clean. My hands are washed. Just this color is stubborn. So it's...
Remember like 3 episodes ago when you had orange hands the whole time?
I had orange hands the whole time, and I didn't say a word. And then I went and played soccer that night, and this girl was like, what is on your hands? I was like, paint.
She sounds like a real jerk.
She was nice. She was just concerned. She probably thought it was like tanning lotion or something, because it was just orange. Okay, so I'm taking some Norway blue. I want this to be a lighter wash, so I'm gonna add water to it to lighten it up. And then I'm just gonna start filling in all of my elephant with this light wash. You're just gonna kind of go through and fill it in. Now, the only part that I'm not going to color in with this wash is the eyeball itself. But you can see as I paint over this, because watercolor is so transparent, you can definitely still see that pencil line there. So, and how you get a softer line when you trace using graphite paper is you just have really soft pressure with whatever your pen or pencil you're using to trace. You just want to do that as lightly as possible, and you'll get like a very soft line. I've actually used a felt tip marker before, and that was really good because it just has a soft, I don't know, point naturally, that even when you press hard, it's still pretty soft. And on this elephant, you'll see that I outline it, but then I also put areas of where there's shadow, and that's just reference for me. Now, you don't have to follow it totally exactly. Sometimes we blend out from it. It's just a reference. It's just a point of reference for you guys. So don't be stressed out if your paintings or your shadows or something go a little bit farther than the outline.
You avoiding the eyeball?
Yes, I'm avoiding the eyeball.
I knew it.
I don't have anything against the eyeball. Also, I want to make a point that when we do elephants, I meant animals. When we do any animals, they're gonna look funny till the very end. And that's because I don't do the eyeballs or like the detail work till the end. So they always look a little bit creepy. That's okay. With animals, you just have to like, just stick with it and keep on going. Okay. I got this filled in. If you want to go to like the edge of your paper, you can. If you want a nice straight kind of border like I have on my example, I used actually painter's tape to get that nice straight line. But sometimes I also like it when it's like this loose kind of wash at the bottom. Okay, so we finished with step 1, putting in our blue elephant. That was it. You guys already completed 1/5 of the painting. Now we're going to put in our shadows. So I'm going to take some Norway blue and I'm going to mix a little bit of black. So it's just a little bit darker in color, and then because I'm picking up a little bit more paint, it's going to be stronger in value. And then I'm going to go around like in this area right here. You might just want to follow off the reference photo or just kind of do it where I'm doing, but I'm going to start putting in shadow parts of the elephant. So underneath the ear, there's a little shadow. And we like to put in shadow because that is what gives us form. That's how we make something feel three-dimensional. Now around on the other side of the ear and kind of around the eyeball here, that whole thing is kind of shadowed.
And what was the paint again?
The paint, like mixture?
Yeah.
It's Norway blue and a touch of black and water, obviously. Because we paint with water. Because we're watercolorists.
Paint and water.
Okay, so up here on like the forehead, this area is a little bit shadowed. And hopefully Jody is watching this, because Jody she's been with us since the beginning. She's been painting our projects and sharing it, and she sent me a message, and it was this picture of an entire elephant that was like made with like watercolor splatters, like all different colors. And she was just like, can we please do something like this? And I'm like, girl, yes. So this project I made in honor of Jody because she sent it. So if you have ideas that you want to go over, if you have things that you want me to paint, email it to us. We want to hear your interest. We want to hear what you want to paint. And then I'm going to put a little shadow over on the left side of the trunk here, just a little one. So already, just by kind of putting in those shadows from the wash, we already now have dimension to our elephant. Something as simple as that, just a little 1, 2. Yeah, doesn't he look cool? Let's do a little bit more shadow around his eye. Now, one thing you want to keep in mind with watercolor is you can always do multiple layers. You don't have to go in with super dark paint right away and try and get that off the first go around. Sometimes I work my way around an elephant or an animal a couple of times to get that depth that I want. So I'm going to do a little bit more around the eye, a little bit around the ear. Now we want the dark, oh, cherry red got in there. Now we want the darkest part to be closest. So how shadows work is the shadow that's off from the ear, right by the ear, that's where it's going to be the darkest. And then it's going to like lightly transition off of that. So don't outline it. Put in your dark and then kind of blend it out so it's a nice little transition from dark to light. And to blend, I just take a damp brush, kind of move that paint out. And on this side, I'm going to blend it out a little bit more. And then there's a little bit of like wrinkling on the ears because elephants' ears are big. They're like flappy. You know what I'm saying, yeah. Right?
How else could you describe it?
What would you say? If you wouldn't use flappy, what would you say?
I'd use flappy.
Okay, all right. So I'm going over one more time.
Flappy.
That's not a bad thing. Okay. Doing one more little run of shadows across these places. And then this little bump here that's on the other side of the head, that is actually the top of the other ear. So I'm just gonna kind of put that in since I have my dark out for my shadow. Just kind of put that in right there. It's not imperative that you have that, but I just thought it was a nice little, he has another ear, you know? Okay, now we're gonna let this dry for a minute and we can move on to step 3. Sorry, I'm blending first. Blending a little out first. Okay. Okay, so we just finished step 2, which was putting in the shadows of our elephant, and now we're gonna do our rainbow water while this dries. So, as you can see here, we have all these different colors. So make sure you have all the colors on your palette. And a lot of this technique that we're gonna do here is we're just going to use clean water to like make our shapes, and then we're just gonna drop in drops of color, and it's just gonna spread, and some of them are gonna blend together a little bit. We might help them blend a bit. If you do this big enough, you could probably even take a paintbrush and like flick it itself. But we are working on a small area here, and that would not work. So we're gonna kind of mimic the shape of water. So I'm gonna start here. I'm just going to take I'm still working with my 6. We're putting our water in on our elephant. And we're gonna make the shape just using clean water. So it's gonna kind of like splay out. So like a fountain, just kind of think of that as you're going, how fountains kind of like splay, and then you get little drips here. And then we're just gonna drop in color. So taking my daffodil, I can just drop in some of this color here. Just like that.
It's kind of the coolest part of watercolor.
It is, it's one of my favorite things to do in watercolor is to just drop in some color in some water and just kind of like watch it move. Now, if you want it to mix a little bit more, you can just take your damp brush, kind of mix these colors together a little bit, get some different things going on here. And that's just, we're just gonna repeat that as we kind of go up into this shape that's gonna kind of go up and then down this way. So just take some water, and usually I'll just go right off from where I left off, so that yellow is just gonna keep bleeding up. And the wonderful thing about these colors is we can mix them to get other colors here. So you can drop in some blue here, but also when you mix the cherry red and the blue together, you get this really pretty purple. So you can put in some purple, or you can drop in some pink right on top of it and make your own purple and let that mix right there in front of your eyes. And the same thing for the daffodil and the cherry, that's gonna make like an orange color. So just kind of use the side of your brush to kind of do thicker areas. And then don't forget to do some that kind of splatter off, right? Because we want it to look like water is spraying. And so you can just pick up a little bit of colors and do these little areas that kind of splash out. The one thing that you want to be aware of is you don't want to add so much color in the water that it all starts to mix together so much that it turns brown. So just kind of like do a little bit as you go. Don't go super crazy, because if you do that and you start mixing, it's gonna turn to like a brown, and we wanna keep these separate areas. So just kind of like do it. I mean, I don't wanna say be timid. What's a better word for that? Al?
Conservative.
Conservative, perfect. That was a great word on demand. Good job.
Don't be flappy. What's the word?
I'm gonna add a little bit of orange over here. And we're just gonna keep kind of going up. And this is gonna look, because it's so kind of, I don't wanna say random, but unique. Like, this is gonna turn out different every time. Like, this one is also looking a bit different in terms of color. That's okay. I don't wanna give you like an exact recipe on how to do this, because it's your painting, it's your thing. Make it yours. Make it your own by adding the colors that you want. And then I'm just gonna start going this way. And you can take the color that's already there and kind of move that down. Put some more yellow in. And you just have to do a touch sometimes. Sometimes I just do a touch and I don't even blend that out. I just kind of let it be. Kind of let it do its own thing. And over here I did a good job with my little things that are poking out. This side I'm lacking a little bit, so just kind of adding my little splashes, I guess, my sprays. This is looking cool. I'm really excited about this. You can
compliment your own painting.
You can, okay? You can and you will. And then as I kind of go out, because it's really thick in this area, as in wide, my spray is wide, and then as it goes this way, it's gonna thin out, which is how I'm gonna do it. If you want your thing to be thick the whole way, go for it. Just try and keep that kind of like sprayed out, kind of almost like feathered a little bit. And then to finish it off, I'm just gonna do like a light wash, kind of just grabbing that color that's there, just to give it like a soft note at the end. And then after I put it in, I'm gonna just kind of take a look and be like, okay, what areas are looking a little bit strong in color? Can I add some other color or introduce some color over here? So like here, I'm gonna add a little purple and make my little sprayed out dots over there. Here, I feel like this can kind of spray out. And if you even want to do your splay dots a little bit with your 2, because you're going to get some nice thin lines, feel free to switch your brush. Just want to introduce a little bit of yellow over here. Bam. That's it, Al. Doesn't that look so good?
It's pretty rainbowy.
It is. Oh, I'm so happy with it. It's so fun. And then something I want you to keep in mind is if you look closely at these spots where I did these, the rainbow splades, there are areas that I didn't paint at all, just random little white chunks of space. Have that in yours, because first of all, it's good to have light values in anything. And second of all, it just gives it the feel of like water. There's kind of sections or spurts of water. So I didn't fill in this entire thing. I let some white in throughout. So keep that in mind.
I feel like you should have told us that at the beginning.
I feel like you're right. I should have. But I just thought of it right now.
I would have not painted it here.
What? What?
You got to the end and said, I would not have painted these spots. I hope you didn't.
I didn't paint these spots here. We're fine. You guys are fine. Hopefully you're still working on it, and I said that not when you were totally done. Okay. All right, Al. It's fine. It's fine. Okay. So we just finished putting in our rainbow water. We just finished step 3. You did it. We're more than halfway done with this painting. We're gonna rainbowify our elephant.
Let's rainbowify.
Rainbowify. We should get a shirt that says that. Anyways, see how there's different colors on this elephant? We got some like green and yellow and purpley. That's what we're gonna do right now. What?
Rainbowify.
Yeah, colorize. Okay, so I'm just taking a little bit of the daffodil yellow. I'm mixing in some water with it so it's not like pure yellow that I'm just putting on my elephant. I still want it to be a light wash, so make sure you have lots of water. And just kind of, I'm gonna start introducing different colors on my elephant. And you can do it. There wasn't like a scientific reason why I did, yellow on the top and then purple on the trunk. I didn't get that specific about it. It was just a little bit more random. Same thing with the rainbow water. So just keep that in mind. Just do what feels right for you,
Have fun with it.
Have fun with it. Put in some purple, and put some purple over here. Now, because we already laid down a blue wash, when we introduce a different color on top, I introduced yellow here, but because there's blue underneath, it made it look green. That's cool. That's what we want. We like those layers of color. We like that little hint of something else. So don't be stressing if you're laying it down and you're like, this looks green. Yes, it does. That's okay. There. And I got a little bit more cherry on the bottom of my trunk here. Ooh, that's a lot. That's okay. I'm gonna take my paintbrush, my damp paintbrush, and kind of lift some of that color out. Just lift with the damp brush, pat it on your paper towel, do it again. And when I'm adding color here, I'm kind of following a little bit the little waves on the ear, those little lines, because they're flappy ears. Okay, we just rainbowified our elephant. It's beautiful, it's colorful, it's unique. Just like you. Now we're going to do the last part. Well, you guys, we're almost done. You're doing it. We're gonna move on and kind of just do those finishing details. We're gonna put in the eyeball and just kind of, I'll probably put in a couple more shadows on mine because I want some areas to be darker. And that's it.
Neat.
So cool. Okay, welcome to step 5. This is our last step. We're gonna put in some details. Now before I hit my eyeball, I'm just kind of looking at my reference photo, I'm looking at my painting, and I'm noticing that the trunk is a little bit darker and the ears are a little bit darker. So that's what I'm gonna do to my painting. I'm gonna mix some Norway. I'm gonna pour a little bit more Norway. Sometimes my colors kind of mix together. I'll just start a new little pile on my palette. So I have my Norway. I'm gonna mix in a little bit of black. So I get this nice dark blue. I'm just gonna kind of start putting that in here. And then I'm gonna blend that out. And if you want to introduce like a stronger blue color instead of like this kind of navy that we have going on, you can just drop in a little bit of just pure Norway, and that's going to read more blue. And I feel like I want kind of this area to be a stronger blue. I'm still kind of following the shadows around my eyes. Kind of keeping my shadow line as reference as I add this. And if you're adding some shadow again and you lost some of that color that you put in, just let this dry for a second and put it back in. I don't mind the colors that I have here. I don't think it covered up too much. So I feel good. I feel good about my painting. Okay. Now, when you do the eyeball of this elephant, what I want you to keep in mind is you want to make sure that the area around the eye is totally dry before you put the eyeball in. If I tried to take my pure black right now and go and fill in this eyeball, it would touch that wet blue that's around it and it would just bleed everywhere.
Death.
Instant death. No, Al, it's just a painting. So I'm just gonna make sure that area is dry. So sometimes like when I'm waiting for an area to dry, I'll just take that time to kind of look at other parts of my painting and see if there's anything else I can do while I'm waiting for that one specific area to dry. So if I'm looking at my rainbow water right now, I'm like, you know what? I could have a couple extra dots right at the top where it comes out of the trunk. I can add some in there, and why not? I'm waiting for something to dry. I have time, let's do it. So I could just like add some splays coming out here. Maybe this way. So kind of take advantage, because sometimes watercolor is a waiting game. Sometimes you're just waiting for something to dry. I like to take advantage of that time and just kind of take a look at the rest of my painting and see how it feels. If you're really happy with your rainbow water and you don't want to mess with it, then don't do this part.
We're just super optimized for time and efficiency.
I'm all about efficiency, you know?
Not gonna see me not painting.
I'm not going to be sitting here with the paintbrush not painting. Okay, let's see. Oh, that's dry. Okay, cool. I'm switching to my 2 because I'm going to do my little eyeball. I'm just going to take some black And I'm gonna move this because my trunk is wet and I don't want to put the fat of my hand. Is that the right thing? The fat of your hand? What is that? That can't be right.
The chubby side.
The chubby side. I don't want to put that in my damp trunk, so I'm gonna move my paper a little, and then I'm gonna kind of outline this kind of curved shape here. And then we're gonna fill it in, but we're gonna leave a little glare kind of at the top of the eyeball. Like so. And then I'm gonna take some more black, and I'm kind of just gonna follow these because elephants, if you look close at their eyes, they're similar in, like, you know how we have a wrinkle up here on our eyelid? They have a couple of those too. And there's a couple of them, and they're a little bit more pronounced. So I'm just gonna follow that kind of like curved line.
Remember when your daughter noticed your wrinkle on her?
Oh yeah, I told my 6-year-old, I was putting lotion on her skin. And I was like, Ella, your skin is so soft. I wish my skin was as soft as yours. She's like, yeah, your skin is all wrinkly. I'm like, I'm 28 years old, okay? I'm not old.
I'm in my prime.
This is the prime. And then I'm gonna do the same kind of eyelid swoosh on the under part of my eye. Now remember not to touch that wet black that we just put in on our eye itself, because that would bleed and kind of move everywhere. It'd bleed out. Is that the right word? Yeah.
Rainbowify, fat hand.
Rainbowify, fat hand. Okay, and then what I'm gonna do with my black is I'm going to take my damp brush that's clean. I'm gonna go right next to the white glare that I left, and I'm gonna lift a little black out to see if I can just get like a gray area, just a softer part on the eyeball of our elephant. Just like that. So we should have 3 different values on our eye. We should have pure black, we should have a gray, and we should have a white. Just like that. I'm gonna let that dry for a second, and I'll probably do one more detail line on the eyelid, but while I'm waiting, I'm gonna do a little detail lines on the ear. So I'm just gonna kind of go through and just kind of shape the ear a little bit. I'm gonna pronounce that curve there, maybe another curve here, and then on the back side too. Just so it's like defining that line a little bit more. And now that my eyeball should be dry enough, I'm gonna do a little extra shadow back here on that eyelid. Just like that, to make it really have some depth there. Okay, you guys, that was it. We did it. We finished our elephant. If you painted this with us, share it. We want to see it. You can post it on Instagram, and you are welcome, and we encourage you to tag us in it. Our account name is Let's Go Make Art. You can just tag us in it. We have kits of these for sale, so if you just want to try this without having to buy, huge bottles of paint, they come with smaller bottles. You can just get that on our website at letsmakeart.com. Or if you like what we're doing and you want to, create every week and really have this fun time with us, we have a subscription box. So every month we mail that to you. You get everything you need for the month, and we paint 4 projects. So now that we've given you the steps, paint it, share it, and tag us in it. Thank you so much.